look at our facilities. Our soccer field is first class, one of the best ones, I think, on the West Coast, if not the country. The environment we get there has been tremendous. And I like to think that we recruit the right student athletes. It's a fit here. We've got to be different at Washington State. We know that. We hear it in all our sports. But I think we've done a good job of finding style and player that fits this community, this program.
Yeah, great question. A strong NIL program and sufficient NIL funding is crucial for any athletics program, WSU's athletics program, when it comes to recruiting and retaining top student athletes.
Welcome into the Inside WSU Athletics podcast. Here we go, our second episode, and joined by the Director of Athletics, Ann McCoy. And not just having Ann McCoy on for this episode, but WSU head soccer coach Todd Shulenberger, and also Deputy Director of Athletics, Ike Ukaegbu. And it is a busy time. I think every time we have the opportunity to talk now, that's probably a pretty consistent theme. But
I agree.
Our second episode, and we're back at it.
Yeah. Look at us. Week 2. Here we are. Well, you know what? I don't want to throw you a curveball, but I thought it might be fun. You're the one that always gets to interview everyone. And we got to talk a lot about myself and President Cantwell and Alex Brink last week. But I would love if you wouldn't mind telling us and everyone watching more about yourself. Tell us about Chris King and whatever you want to share.
Oh, goodness. Well, I will say it's always easier being the one who asks the questions than gets being the one asked it. I have a lot of respect for that. It's easier just tossing questions. I'm used to that. But my background. So I live here in Pullman with my wife, Carly. She's a former Cougar student athlete. She was on the rowing team. We've got 2 kids, 3-year-old Cam, and then a 7-month-old Maddie. We've got our dog too. So we're busy. Her and I, both Washington natives. I'm from Marysville, very proud WSU grad, Murrow College grad, and always just wanted to do this. So I'm incredibly fortunate. Announced my first game when I was 15, and it's kind of went along the path. There's no better place to go if this is what you want to do than coming right here to WSU. And then when I was here at WSU, really involved in everything that came with the Murrow College, but also most of my Fridays throughout my freshman year through my senior year, I drove up to Spokane, chance to call games. There was a show that covered high school sports across the state of Washington, so did that. So would drive back and forth pretty much every Friday night during the high school football and high school basketball season. And kind of went along this path that I did baseball. I worked for the Tri-City Dust Devils for many years, the Wenatchee Apple Sox, and then on the college side, you never know how these things work out. There's no job I would rather have in this world than this job that I'm fortunate to have. And just went along this path where I started at Boise State, did women's basketball. I then got the opportunity at the University of Idaho, started out doing men's basketball and added doing football there. And then this opportunity came up, and I still wake up every day and thank my lucky stars. It all lined up. So that's kind of the quick background on how I got to this point and have the good fortune of chatting here with you today.
Oh, I love it. I still remember I had the good fortune of being able to talk with you during the interview process. And we'd not ever met before, I don't think, or spent any time, amount of time together. And just not only your infectious enthusiasm and positivity, but amazing knowledge of the Cougs. It's been so fun. And I remembered Baby Watch right around the Gonzaga men's basketball game, I feel like last year when you were, we're expecting your, youngest. And it's just, it's an exciting, wild time. So I appreciate you being willing to share that. So thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, thinking back to Baby Watch 2 was the day after the Gonzaga game. Baby number 2 came about. So the timing was good on that. Everything went. And the Champion Center opened too. I believe it was the day before that.
It was a big weekend around Pullman.
Yeah.
Gonzaga, the Champion Center, and Baby King. I love it. So, so there is a lot going on, to your point, to get us back on track. Sorry for diverting us, but what an amazing last week of athletic contests and activities. I feel like, I don't know if you had a chance to go by the Harvest Market, kind of the Harvest Fest on the track that Lindsey Brown and Connors and a lot of people, the Cosmic Crisp people, all joined together. And it was, we had Teresa Gould, our Pac-12 commissioner in town. So we got to bring her to that, which was super fun, super exciting. And she's a farm girl from Iowa, as she would call herself. So this was right up her alley, and she always enjoys her time in Pullman. And then Coach Doba, oh my God, one of my favorite human beings. Did you have much of a chance to interact or spend time with him?
I did. So when I was a student here, Coach Doba was the coach for my first 3 years. So many good memories. And talk about someone that when you ask people whether they're a former student athlete, people who worked with him, they just light up and talk about what a great person he is. So I got a chance to visit with him, and I was helping to connect to Alex Brink, who was our guest last week, to make sure, because those guys, not only a lot of great memories, but a lot of great Apple Cup memories too between the two of them, to make sure that Coach Doba was up in the booth and Alex was on the field, and calling, texting Alex saying, "Hey, I think they saw each other in passing, but saying, hey, Coach Doba's available. Make sure you get up here." And they got a chance, I know, to connect more, which was really neat.
Well, and to have his family here, and just to watch him raise the flag and have the family, and it just warmed my heart. I got a chance to spend more time with him when he was here in the spring. But he'll call occasionally, and I started at WSU and he was our defensive coordinator. So I got to be with him as the defensive coordinator and as the head coach at Washington State. And every time he calls, I pick up the phone and he's like, "Annie, it's Coach Doba." And I'm always Annie to him. And it's always, every conversation starts that way. And I like smile and I go, okay, this is going to be a good day,
That's too funny. He's out on the lake in Michigan, right? He's got sounds like a really good retirement setup for him.
Does.
I know everyone's grateful when he's able to come back to the Palouse.
He does. Yeah.
Well, this last week, okay, there was a lot going on. We had the Apple Cup. Let's jump into this question, Ann. How did the first game with walk around beer and wine sales go?
Yeah, all things considered, I think pretty well. I mean, we have some things we can certainly work on and improve with some of the operational logistics. But I think the team, both, with Airmark, our concessionaire, and all of the crowd management people, our staff, did a good job of being stocked up and ready and having, kind of that operating plan close at hand to be able to be sure we were following. A few tweaks here and there that we needed to adjust on and probably better communicate. But from what I saw, the lines weren't too bad. And I think having, both the stands and kind of the walkthrough service. And to be honest, whether it was the fact it was a really close game for much of it, or the fact that there were beer and wine sales, or it was a beautiful, evening/afternoon, I was so excited to see the crowd and the crowd stay, so I think that for the most part, with the no reentry, there were a few, okay, I've got to readjust how I do my, Cougar game day. But overall, I think really positive, a great fan enhancement. And, we're still working through all kind of the debrief to make sure, we fully understand areas we can get better and check through everything. But all in all, I would say it was a definite success and something to build on for the future.
Well, that is great to hear. And everything just from our view up in the press box, everything looked awesome. What a beautiful Palouse day. The Palouse was showing off, striping out the sections, great crowd. It was everything on that front. So neat to see. And kind of going back to Ann, the Regents meetings last week in Spokane. What would you say came out of that?
Yeah, I think from the athletic specific portion of the Regents meetings, we for quite some time on a regular basis provide budgetary updates. And we've been a department and an area that the Regents have approved the budget of, that they continue to monitor and check. So it gave us a good chance to give an update on, where we landed the fiscal, year 25 budget, and then kind of how we're doing so far with our fiscal year 26 budget. And so it was good. It was always good to spend time with the Regents and, be able to talk through the athletics and really to continue our goal of being extremely transparent, but also accountable for our budget. I think that in some ways, that has definitely been a point of noticed challenge, we'll say, in the past. And so I think it's something that we're very committed to, and understanding that we need to be good stewards of our resources. And so whenever we have a chance to share, mostly the good about all of that, or areas we can get better, we're happy to do it. So it was good. They were good meetings.
Well, that's awesome. And so that's going on. That's obviously keeps a number of folks busy. There's the Apple Cup, but then it's just a busy time for athletics. So kind of looking back, since we had the last chance to talk, volleyball hosted Washington and Eastern Washington. Great atmosphere at Bowler.
Great crowd.
Against Washington. I know that was really cool to see.
It was really good energy. And one of the things I think about is I always have to remember that not everybody has 25 years of going to these athletic events. So, for Corey Schrader to be the head coach in that type of an environment, was terrific. For, Jimmy Rogers and his staff to see, Gisa Field like we know it can look and feel, and town and everything else. It was great. I mean, the crowd was really exciting. It was great to see Cougar volleyball play well, and again, just a great crowd with football. And I think, quite frankly, people saw a lot of improvement, from the North Texas game to the Apple Cup, kind of reaffirming what we're talking about. This is a process. Like, there's a lot of time that goes into building a program, and you don't immediately, get the keys and open up and everything's great with the, and so it was exciting to see, I think, a lot of positive momentum and reinforcement for all the good things happening in all of our fall sports. I mean, we had Evans and Rosemary, WCC, athletes of the week with cross country, and just, it's amazing to see those two programs getting both national notice and certainly regional. And so there's a lot of really exciting things happening in the fall right now. A lot of good momentum for Cougar athletics for sure.
Yeah, especially that shout out for Evans Karui, Rosemary Longisa, as you mentioned, WCC cross country runner of the week last Tuesday. Both set course records in their last meet, and Evans was named the national runner of the week. So all really, really cool stuff for them. And now, speaking of cool stuff, let's get into our first guest. Coming up, we will be chatting with WSU soccer coach Todd Shulenberger. All right. Well, we have our first guest on this episode, and Ann, no better person than you to give us the introduction to who we have stopping by on this episode.
Yeah, Chris, thank you. I appreciate it. So we're extremely excited to have Todd Schulenberger, our head women's soccer coach. And I had the good fortune of being the soccer administrator when Todd was hired. So we got to spend a lot of time together during the hiring process, and really excited about everything that he would bring to Washington State soccer, but also the Pullman community. But first, Todd, maybe more personal, like tell us a little bit about you, your family, your background, whatever you want to share so people get to know you a little better.
Okay, I'm from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. That's central PA for those that don't know. Carlisle it's a small college town, a lot like Pullman, a little bigger. Dickinson College is there, a great law school. There is the Carlisle Army Barracks. And I grew up there my whole life, and I played soccer, I played baseball, I played basketball. I did everything growing up. I have a sister that is now in Atlanta, that she was a tennis player. My parents, mom and dad, both live back in the central PA area still to this day. It's a great area to grow up. And it's why I think I fit Pullman, because I grew up in a college town, and I know what it's like to be in those environments and what it takes to reach out to the community and what it takes to be a part of everything there. And I really think there was a reason I'm here. And that's one reason where I started at Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And I lived there my whole life, and then went to college out in Pittsburgh, which is about 3 hours west of Carlisle there.
So, Todd, you played at Robert Morris, right? If memory serves me correctly. Yep. And then maybe professionally after that, or just what was that experience like, and what drew you to coaching?
It was great. Robert Morris was another smaller town. It was outside of Pittsburgh. It's called Coriopolis. It's out by the airport. My college coach at the time was the former U.S. men's national team coach. So as any young kid and male, soccer was my dream. And I got recruited there, played there, got a scholarship. He was the national team coach, and then joined us at Robert Morris. Great experience at business school, got a degree in marketing. After college, we won the conference a couple of times. Back then in the Northeast, that was a who's who for men's soccer. There were the schools like Rutgers and Philly Textile and Long Island, and we played Duke, we played Carolina, all those schools. So it was a great experience, but things were different then, right? There was no flying, there was vans, there was buses, and so great time at Robert Morris. And then after there, got into coaching, and I moved down to Atlanta. I played some professional soccer in Ohio, the Canton Invaders. At the time, there was no MLS. That's our Major League Soccer League now. This was the professional indoor league that I played. It's called the MPSL. And then played there for a couple of years, and then moved to Atlanta thinking I was still going to play soccer, and then got into coaching at club. And it was probably the best thing I could have done. Coaching at the club level gets you prepared. I always say this to young coaches: get yourself ingrained at a club, learn how to win, learn how to lose, learn how to deal with parents. And that helps you in your journey if college coaching is something you want to do. So I started in Atlanta, my coaching career there.
Well, Chris, I don't want to monopolize the time here. What are you wondering about with Todd?
Well, it's going to be fun to talk about just this program and the success that Cougar Soccer's had, one of the top programs on the West Coast for quite some time now. How has the program been able to sustain this quality for nearly 15 years?
Well, I believe obviously it starts with Ann McCoy. I mean, Ann brought me here, and the administration here. It's one of the reasons to this day why I'm here, and I'm a huge supporter of Ann. I'm very grateful for Bill Moose in that process as well, and they've kept me here. So I think administration's a big part. They enjoy soccer. They love soccer. They support all sports here, but have a major impact on our day-to-day operations. Look at our facilities. Our soccer field is first class, one of the best ones, I think, on the West Coast, if not the country. The environment we get there has been tremendous. And I like to think that we recruit the right student athletes. It's a fit here. We've got to be different at Washington State. We know that. We hear it in all our sports. But I think we've done a good job of finding style and player that fits this community, this program. And, we're not the Stanford program. That's okay. We are a different kid that has to roll our sleeves up, get to work. And that's who I think we are and who we continue to be. And that's why I'm here and want to continue that.
Well, part of this stretch of success that we're talking about, that remarkable run to the 2019 College Cup, did you see that coming during the season when you look back on that historic run?
I think any coach that coaches this level, if you don't think you can get there, you're in the wrong business. So, I would say that that's our goal, any coach, that we always think we can achieve and get to that level. Outside of there, I think everybody else doubted us, right, that year. And it's never happened here at Washington State. One of the biggest contributing factors to this day, we look at all the highlighted players we have, but that locker room was something else. The pressure of me having to raise the bar every day was minimized because of what was being done in that locker room. And I say all the time, in that year, it was Carolina, it was UCLA, it was Stanford, and Washington State. And what got us there is our culture and our locker room for sure. We had some great young ladies that have done a great job in life at the time at Washington State and furthered their career and off the field. I like to think we could do it, and I like to think we continue to do it. That's just who we are and how we're built and how we're wired.
Well, when it comes to this year's team, the squad has been very competitive with a very young, talented team. I know you've had to deal with injuries this year. How would you describe how the team's attitude has been so far?
I think they've been unbelievable, to be honest with you guys. That I would say outside of that great year we had where we ran all the way to the fun we talk about, this has been the funnest team to coach. I'm telling you. And I know we have the record to not show it right now, but they are coachable. They're hungry. They're young. They're eager. They get what we want, and there's no complaining, right? They just want to do it. And we're sitting with our backs to the wall a little bit. That's sports, right? So we got injuries. It just fires me up a little bit more, to be honest with you, because people are sleeping on us now. We're injured. We're young. We're this. If they come sleeping in the Pullman, we're going to be ready either way. So we've given up the least amount of goals we've ever given up here. Now, we haven't scored the most either, but I get that. It's young, but I'm okay with it. These girls are hungry, and let's get this thing started tomorrow night.
So, Todd, we talk a lot about all the changes in college athletics. Obviously there are a lot of moving pieces, but from your perspective, what do you think are some of the biggest changes that you've seen and kind of how you're adapting to them?
I think people probably want us to say the money, the NIL. I disagree. Mine has been the conference realignment. That's flat out was what's happened. I think we all could have said back in the day, and Leach everybody told us that the money was coming. It was coming. So whether we're prepared or not, that's the reality where we're at. I think the way the landscape has changed, college athletics has come to conference realignment, different, opponents, different way you got to schedule, different type of travel, and it's not easy to get here or leave here. That's just the reality. We know what we signed up for, but that's okay. But I think for us is just different culture and how we're going to play and how that's going to look, and the unsettlement of the old Pac-12 into the WCC and now to the new Pac-12. Once we get some stability, I think you're going to watch this university take off. Give us a couple years in all these programs, it's going to take right back off. I think we all looking for stability in a new conference, and congrats to Ann and everybody that's helped put this thing together for us.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time here today. Just any final thoughts? The floor is yours of what you want Coug fans to know about your program and just all the hard work that I know everyone's put in over the years and for this season and what's to come.
I just keep supporting these young ladies. They're a great group. They're fun to watch. They're very likable around the community. They're doing a great job in the classroom. I think nowadays with the NIL that these young ladies they get to go out and meet people in the business world. I think it's great for them. They're not looking to put their hand out. It gives them opportunity for later in life to learn, to deal with businesses, to deal with family, different corporations, companies, donors. So keep watching these young ladies. They're a good group. They're hungry. We got 11 games to go here. The conference is wide open, and I appreciate everyone's support on Cougs soccer for sure.
Coach, thanks so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Well, again, a big thanks to Todd Shulenberger, and a reminder what's coming up. Opportunities here to come see the WSU soccer team in action on September 24th. That is Wednesday, the day that this episode is dropping, at home, 7 o'clock start time against Seattle U. And then on Saturday, Santa Clara, the opponent, coming to town. Also a 7 o'clock start time. So that is Saturday, September 27th. Well, now excited to bring in our next guest, WSU Deputy Director of Athletics, Ike Ukaegbu. Ike, thanks for being here. I know you have a great background, great experience before making your way to the Palouse. Can you talk about your background and college athletics and what your role is here with WSU?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation. I guess I'll start out with, I got my bachelor's degree at the University of Arizona, and I got a master's degree at St. Thomas University 19 years ago. So I've been in the industry for about 19 years since, graduating from college. I started working at the Division I level in 2007. Majority of my career has been in compliance. I did about 15 years in compliance, the first 15 years or so. And those first 7 years or so, I worked at a variety of schools, including our new conference partner, Boise State. I was there for a few years during those first 7 years. After those 7 years in compliance, I left and took a job at TCU. It was a leadership role overseeing the compliance office there. I spent about 8 years over at TCU in the Big 12. While there, I was able to transition into some other areas of the athletics department, overseeing the men's basketball program, the swimming and diving program, and the rifle program as a sport administrator, which was a great experience. While there, I was also able to help spearhead the NIL program in 2021 when NIL first became permissible. So in terms of the education and the resources and just the onboarding for our student athletes, that was a great experience. I was also able to help build the first NIL collective over at TCU in terms of building a structure and what the deliverables had to be for the student athletes. And that collective is still going strong today based on what I'm aware of. 2022 came along, and it was time for me to kind of transition in my career and kind of get out of compliance after doing it for 15 or 16 years or so. Got an opportunity at WSU in 22 to come be the football sport administrator and the men's basketball sport administrator, and also oversee our sports performance areas, which was great. The sports performance areas being sports medicine and nutrition and strength and conditioning and equipment and so forth. That's allowed me to get involved with a lot of donor cultivation and capital projects and, other activities such as, the student athlete experience and staffing and budgeting and overall program evaluation, game scheduling for the football and men's basketball program. That's been great so far. And then just recently, over the last couple of months, been able to start overseeing our NIL program here at WSU. So it's been a great 3 years, starting my 4th year at WSU, and looking forward to the future here.
Well, I'm sure what you talked about on the NIL side of things and being there, working on it on the very, very first steps, as you mentioned at TCU, is probably part of your answer to my question here. But just the biggest changes that you've seen, that you've experienced during your time in college athletics.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of changes over those 19 years. I would say the main ones probably center around probably 3 things. I'd say first one being conference realignment. I've been a part of conference realignment both here at WSU and at TCU when Texas and Oklahoma left the Big 12 to go to the SEC, and then the Big 12 had to rebuild. I was at TCU at that time, and conference realignment, which is primarily a results or driven by media rights and revenue opportunities. I would also say the deregulation of transferring and the student athlete's ability to transfer from institution to institution and the creation of the transfer portal has made it a lot easier for them to transfer from school to school and more frequently. The transfer portal has made it a lot more challenging to manage rosters from year to year, but it's also created a lot of great opportunities also. And I'd say probably the next biggest change, or the third biggest change, third and fourth, has to do with, the revenue sharing and the NIL, right? The NCAA versus House settlement and NIL, which is House settlement just recent, but NIL has been around for 4 years now. And as you know, the House settlement allows institutions to participate in revenue sharing and make direct payments to student athletes. And an NIL, which became permissible, as I mentioned, in 2021, allows student athletes to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. And it's created an additional, need for additional donor support to create those opportunities in today's landscape.
So, Ike, maybe to follow up on that a little bit, talk a little bit more about the importance of NIL to a college athletics program, but then also how Washington State's program has really, kind of grown and evolved and, again, kind of an exciting time to launch that forward as you have, you're part administrator, part fundraiser, part, pioneer, like in all of this. And so maybe talk a little bit about the importance, but then also about the program at Washington State specifically and how it's grown.
Yeah, great question. A strong NIL program and sufficient NIL funding is crucial for any athletics program, WSU's athletics program, when it comes to recruiting and retaining top student athletes. NIL can provide financial support, obviously, especially for student athletes who maybe come from less affluent backgrounds. In addition to providing that financial support, it significantly helps our student athletes develop their personal brands as young adults and start creating their overall business acumen for their post-athletic careers, right? They're preparing for life after college and life after being a student athlete, and for those entrepreneurial opportunities that it offers. And WSU's NIL program specifically has grown over the past few years in a number of ways. First, there's multiple ways to give. Our donors, our fans, our alumni can support NIL for one, giving to the next chapter of Champions, which is, our institutional NIL program that allows Cougar supporters to give towards helping retain our talented WSU student athletes through, direct tax-deductible contributions, which are intended to help our revenue sharing efforts. Another way for them to get involved, that we're very proud of also is our partnership with the Cougar Collective, right? And the Cougar Collective is the official collective of WSU Athletics. Cougar Collective's Mighty by Many 1890 Club initiative now has over 2,000 members, in that club. They've been around for a few years now with contributions just starting at just $18.90 a month. And you can also do one-time contributions also. Funding from that 1890 club is used by the collective to fund, and create fair market value NIL opportunities for our student athletes. Those fans who are involved with the collective can also support student athletes by buying, items and purchases from their NIL store, their Old Crimson store. They've been pivotal to our success here at WSU, the Cougar Collective has, and we're very grateful for that partnership. And then Coug fans in general and business owners can support NIL efforts just by doing deals with our student athletes from their own personal businesses. So if they want to get involved that way, they can just reach out to student athletes and solicit and execute deals with those student athletes. We've also bolstered our staffing when it comes to NIL efforts here, at WSU. We've hired 2 full-time staff members over the last few months. One is an individual by the name of Nick Gardner, who's our director of PlayFi Max. Nick is working under our new MMR partner, PlayFi, who we started working with here over the last couple of months or so. And Nick's responsibility, his role is to solicit and execute NIL deals on behalf of our student athletes and to, develop and lead and execute, revenue driving events, activations and efforts that benefit our student athletes. The other staffing role is a guy by the name of Jake Murdak, who is our director of NIL services, which is under the athletic department umbrella. And Jake comes to us from the University of Louisville, where he was working in their NIL office over the last couple of years. His major responsibility has to do with, providing resources and education to our student athletes on personal branding, on financial literacy, on entrepreneurship, and making sure that our coaches and that our student athletes are aware of all these third-party platforms that are out there. There's so many of them, and he's going to be helpful in terms of making sure it aligns with the student athletes' values and our coaches' values and WSU in general, and helping them build the brand to maximize those third-party platforms. And he's also going to be responsible for helping, ensure that they document their NIL activities on the new NIL Go platform, which came from the house settlement, as you know, Ann. So I would say all those things are ways that, we have, improved our NIL efforts over the last few years, and there's more coming.
Ike, thanks. That's super helpful relative to our program now. And one thing people might be interested in hearing more about is if you could talk specifically about the impact on, let's say, football, men's and women's basketball, or just that impact generally.
Yeah, great question. Obviously NIL is for all student athletes, for all sports, but there's no question that NIL support has a direct impact, especially in the revenue generating sports of football, men's and women's basketball. I think that schools that fully embrace NIL will give their revenue generating sports an opportunity to succeed. I'd say that NIL has absolutely impacted the recruiting landscape in football, in men's and women's basketball, by becoming a major factor, and in some cases, becoming the deciding factor for potential recruits in those sports. While the connections to the coaching staff, the connections to the community, the academic prestige, the flashy facilities, and other aspects of that student athlete experience still matter very much, some recruits in revenue sports are prioritizing NIL and support, NIL support and funding prior to committing to schools. So I'd say that sufficient NIL support and funding in those revenue sports doesn't just benefit student athletes by putting money in their pockets, but it benefits the overall athletics program and institution. That sufficient funding for NIL in football, in men's and women's basketball, gives those programs a chance at sustained and continuous success for many years to come. And then that continuous and sustained success will then drive things like higher game attendance, which will attract more sponsorships and strengthen ties with alumni, and our donors and our fans. That overall increased engagement can then continue to enhance WSU's reputation, which cultivates more pride and loyalty amongst our alumni and our donors and translates into, greater financial support for the athletics department in all of WSU. So the impact goes beyond just the individual revenue sport. So I think it's just super important to understand that it's impactful to the sport and to the overall institution for those, institutions that really embrace the football, the men's and women's basketball, NIL.
Oh, that's great. So complete direction change for the last question. You've been here a couple of years now, Ike. Favorite part of Pullman?
Oof. I love the community and the family aspect. Being in a small town after being in a bigger metropolitan area, I did love working at TCU, and it was a much bigger area, but just the smaller community, the ease of life getting around, just being able to get to all my kids' activities, watch them compete in sports and get to their recitals and that type of thing, and just seeing people I know at all those recitals and those types of things. So I really appreciate that because, as you know, time flies. So being able to have that aspect and have my kids involved in my work life, in my, in addition to the personal life also, has been great.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate it.
Well, great stuff, Ike. Thanks for joining us here today. And Ann, I guess before we wrap up this episode number 2, almost in the books, just any final thoughts before we say goodbye for this episode, and look forward to catching up again next week.
Boy, yeah, no final thoughts other than it's been fun. I can't believe we have 2 in the books now. I feel like we're podcast veterans now, Chris. Look at us fly. But I think I would just say too, we have some exciting elements we're going to continue to fold into the podcast. That'll, allow for people to maybe send in their own questions or guests they'd like to see or whatever. I feel like we've monopolized the first 2 a little bit with things that we wanted to be sure and kind of start up with. But it's been a lot of fun. And I think it's been great to just have a more, kind of casual, interactive way to get out to Coug Nation and everybody who's excited and wondering about all things Washington State athletics. So I appreciate all your time and efforts, and excited for this week of activities, and go Cougs.
Well said. Big thanks to you, Ann. Big thanks to Ike and also Todd Shulenberger as well for stopping by. That will do it for this episode of Inside WSU Athletics. Thanks for tuning in, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.